Hello and welcome into another series preview. This one is for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Now, these two teams have met recently in the playoffs a few times, and it's always a good series. It's always hard hitting, it's always fast paced, and this year I expect it to be no different. Now, before we jump into that, as you can see in the top, I have the picture on here. It's just a picture, you can't click on it, of the two previous videos that I have uploaded. If you want to go check them out after watching this one, feel free to click the channel down below, subscribe, like. Back to this though. As you can see from the Stanley Cup Championship odds here, the Florida Panthers are currently the second top team in Vegas, only trailing Carolina slightly, and actually tied with Colorado on winning the Stanley Cup. In the series, they're a minus 170 to plus 145 favorite, which means they're kind of a solid favorite, but not money in the bank, to say the least. They expect it, but they still give Tampa a decent shot if you're not familiar with betting. Now, up here, I found on the NHL website, they had a good little comparison of special teams face-off percentage and goals for. As you can see, both of these teams operate in the top 10 of basically everything except for Tampa in goals against. And that's kind of where I think you're going to see the difference in the series come, is that I think Florida is going to be able to score at a good rate, and I think that Florida is going to be able to defend Tampa a little bit better than Tampa is going to be able to defend Florida. There's also two men between the pipes to talk about. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Florida's power play is operating at 23.5%, which is good. Tampa Bay is at a 28.6%, which is ridiculous. Tampa Bay's been known for the power play. Kucherov, Stamkos, Hedman's a good pivot at the top on the blue line. Good guys who play physical down low, who can bang in goals. They get it done on the power play, and they're really the model in the NHL to follow most years. They're usually in the top five. Penalty kill, both are very solid. They're basically the same, to be honest. Face-off percentage, we don't really need to go into that much. But basically, the big difference is here, you can see Florida can almost score at a top 10 rate, but they're the top team in goals against. And that's really where the difference in this series comes down to. We're going to look at stats real quick. Sam Reinhart with a ridiculous year, 57 goals in 82 games. Really good season for him. I know I'm starting on the right and then looking at the left. Matt Tkachuk, solid year. Barkov, solid year. Carter Verhaeghe, over 30 goals, 72 points in 76 games. The depth scoring is pretty good, and the utility of the bottom nine of the Panthers is also very good. Nikita Kucherov, if he's your MVP, I understand. I personally have Nathan MacKinnon as mine, but 100 assists, fifth player in NHL history to do that. He's ridiculous. Braden Point, having another underrated year, almost 50 goals again. Stamkos 40 and 40, minus 21 and minus 16 for Point and Stamkos. Should tell you something about how good that power play is and how meh Tampa can be sometimes at defense. Hedman with almost a point per game. A lot of people still sleep on him. He's still been playing pretty high quality hockey. Hagel 75 and 82. Nick Paul, Cirelli, Duclair has been a good acquisition for them. And this is a team in Tampa Bay that can beat Florida. I won't be betting on that, but they can beat Florida. They have a lot of talent. It's just kind of more on the D end. Look at the lines right now. As you can see right here, they have Ekblad and OEL out of the lineup currently. They're going to slide back in. You'll probably see the bottom pair kind of slide out. These two slide in their selected spots. Probably top pair for Ekblad. OEL, I know they play with Ekblad a bit. It might just be a pair that they have. But the big guy on the defense that I'm kind of curious to see how he does for Florida is Brandon Montour. Last year versus the Bruins, he murdered us. Absolutely just, did his thing. Scored timely goals, timely plays, good defense as well. And you just look at this lineup against that Florida runs out there. It's not fun to play top to bottom. They have guys who will hit you, will score, and just will be a nuisance after the whistle. It's just an MO of Florida. There's a reason they're second best odds to win the Cup. It's because top to bottom, it's really hard to find some holes. Gustav Forsling, I'm pretty sure he leads the NHL in plus minus. Nico Mikkola is not bad. Ekblad's a very good defender. I think we're starting to realize that he's a little better than we thought he was a few years ago. Just keep seeing improvements. And then on the Bolt side of things, that first line is very good for the Bolts. Point, Kucherov, Duclair, Stamkos, Cirelli, and Hagel, also good. The bottom six is not the best in the world, but a few of those players down there do a good job. Mont's not that bad. Nick Paul's a pretty good playoff player. The big thing, though, is the bottom four that you're going to probably see out of Tampa on their defense. Perbix, Cernak, Lilberg, and Dumba. I'm not sure if Lilberg will stick in the lineup in the bottom pair come playoff time. We'll see. I'm not too familiar with Lilberg, if I'm being completely honest with you, so I don't know if he's a guy that they've been rotating out or not. But regardless, this Tampa Bay team can play. They're just really going up against it against Florida. The big thing that I kind of want to talk about, though, is goaltending here. A lot of people who I talk to who are a little more casual, they talk about Andre Vasilevskiy like he's a god, and he is a god, but this year he has been a bit more human. 900 save percentage, 2.9 goals against, 30, 20, and 2 record. And this is kind of the biggest question mark I have right here, because on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have Bobrovsky, who's been 915, 2.37, 36 wins, 17 losses, 4 overtime losses. It's kind of like, what are you going to get out of both goalies? So Bobrovsky, I think a lot of people have forgotten, Bobrovsky can have his stretches where he is not good, and he'll have his stretches where he is unstoppable. Vasilevskiy, on the other side, who's been pretty dominant only his entire career, is now on the opposite side of the spectrum where he's now having one of these stretches where he's not doing the best. It's kind of one of those things, is this going to continue into the playoffs? Is Sergei Bobrovsky going to keep up his good play that he's been showing throughout the year? It's really kind of interesting to see how these two goalies are coming into the playoffs given their history. So I'm going to be watching for that. That's what I'm really most curious. I think this is probably the most interesting part about this series, is to see how these two goalies perform. In the last 20 games, I think one thing that's interesting, and you'll see it in the next slide, Tampa Bay's scoring. Nikita Kucherov was just going off this last month. 40 points in 20 games, only 6 goals. This dude is maybe the best playmaker in the NHL, barring Connor McDavid. You could probably say he might even be this year higher quality level of just vision in general. Like vision-wise, Nikita Kucherov has been on a different planet this year. Stamkos, 30 points in his last 20 games. Point 26 in his last 19. Those guys have been buzzing, and that's what you like to see going to the playoffs. If you are a Lightning fan, you want to grab on to hope. The hope has been kind of just watching this offense operate in the last month. It's been superb. It's been the best in the NHL, to be honest. So you go to the next slide here. I'll go back to this one, but you can see Tampa Bay at 4 goals per game. That's top of the league since the start of March. So that's something right there. I put up here too, you can see in the top right, goals against per game. I thought that was something interesting. I kind of want to see defensively how these two teams are doing. Both top half of the league. Lightning at 13th, 2.85 goals against per game. Florida, 2.45 goals against per game. Tampa Bay is scoring, though, 4.0. You look at all these teams up here. Most of them are pretty good teams. The next highest is 3.7 with Edmonton. Dallas at 3.7, 3.5 for Nashville, but then at 4 Tampa. Just shows you how good their offense is being, and they're going to have to continue that. If they want to hope to beat Florida, if they want a chance to beat Florida, they're going to have to continue scoring at the rate they're scoring at, and it comes down to probably Bobrovsky's ability as well as how good their defense can play. Because we know Florida can play at a high level defensively from what you just saw there in the last 20 games where they're a top 5 defensive team. It's a matter, though, when you got like immovable force against unstoppable. I don't even know what I'm saying here. But regardless, you get what I'm saying. It's going to be interesting to see what gives, the good defense or the elite offense of Florida, or the elite offense of Tampa and the elite defense that Florida's displayed. Last 20 games notable. Reinhardt's been cruising with 16 in his last 22. Definitely, it's starting to look like it's not really a fluke out of Sam Reinhart. That he's just going to continue banging goals. If you watch him play, he scores from like a variety of spots, whether it's in tight. Like his shot is really good. I don't think many of us saw this coming out of Sam Reinhart, or at least I didn't. Barkov, his usual self. They said he's the East Coast Kopitar, which I kind of like that comparison. I think it's actually very fitting with how good both players are, and kind of Europeans as well. Tarasenko has 14 points in 19 games. He's been a good acquisition. I like the way Bennett plays. Lindell, young player, I like him. Montour, Luosterainen's not bad. Like, there's really just the waves that Florida is going to come at people is going to be a tough thing for teams to deal with. Not just Tampa, but if Florida does win this, which, as you can tell by now, I am picking the Florida Panthers to win this series. Just how are teams going to stop them? Is it going to be that they can play at the same pace as Florida? Because I think the thing is that Florida's developed this year, and why they finished so high in the standings compared to last year where they made it in as the last team, is they can play multiple speeds. Whereas last year, I feel like they were really good at one speed, and they were starting to kind of figure out later in the year that, like, how to play high, fast-paced hockey, as well as start to slow things down to shut games out when they matter. And I think Florida I might pick them to win the Stanley Cup. I'm not positive on that yet. You'll have to see my video that I'll probably release on Saturday morning to see my predictions. But it's going to be interesting. I have Florida winning this series. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this series. And the next video I will do will probably be the New York Rangers Washington Capitals series, followed by the Carolina Hurricanes and New York Islanders video. And that's going to be it for tonight, guys. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.